Now let's take a look at the repeat function. Now why would we use a repeat function? The repeat function is used typically to sew patches, where we're taking one patch design and we're sewing it as many times as we can on the largest hoop possible. You're going to notice in the video that I happen to be using a 20 centimeter hoop. That's for the sake of time. When we're normally doing this, we are in fact typically using the largest hoop. Now, let's look at how we would actually set this up. We want to make sure that we are not in the embroidery mode. And then to set the repeat, we go into the machine function and we want to set zoom, repeat, and rotate. Enter. We're going to use the arrow keys to come down to repeat mode. We want to be on normal. Now the priority. Do I want it to go in a left to right direction first or right to left? That would be an X direction. If I wanted it to go top to bottom or bottom to top, that would be a Y direction. For this, I'm going to go in an X direction. The general rule of thumb is we want to go in the direction of the stretch of the fabric to help push the stretch out if the fabric that we're sewing on happens to have stretch. Now we come down to the X repeat times. How many times is this design going to repeat in the X direction? That's your left and right direction. Well, I want to sew this one 3 times. Then we use the arrow keys to go down to Y repeat times. And again, I'm going to sew this 3 times. Then we have to set what they call the X design interval. And that is the distance between edge to edge or center point to center point of the design. Now, to calculate this, it's very simple. You just take the total width of the design, so that's the X direction, thus X interval. So you take the total width of the design and then add whatever spacing you want to leave in between the designs. So I know this design is approximately 1 inch wide, so that's 25 millimeters, and I want to put a 10 millimeter space in between. So I know I want the X design interval to be 35 millimeters. So I put in 35, 0 for 35, because it has to put in the decimal place. Then I use my arrow keys to go down to my Y design interval. Now, I'm going to start this design in the upper left-hand corner, so when it sews the Y, it's going down from the upper left-hand corner. So my Y design interval is going to be a negative number. Now, this design happens to be the same height as width, so it's 25 millimeters tall, and I want to leave 10 millimeters in between, so it's going to be 35 again, 35, 0, and to make it negative, I hit the plus minus button. That means it's going to go down in the Y direction. Now we hit the Enter key to accept this. Now I escape out. The next thing we want to do is set our start point. Now I know this design, I want to start it towards the upper left-hand corner because I know the Y direction it's going to be sewing down because of that negative value I put in there. So I'm going to move my frame over and up. And one very important thing about this, okay, I am going to go into my home button. I'm going to go down to Set Start, Enter, Enter again. That sets that as my starting point. I go back into the home button, and now this is the real important part. If I use the contour range check, it is only going to trace the one individual character or design. If I use the design range check, it's going to take the entire repeated design and trace it. So I am actually going to start with the contour range check because I want to see where my single design is going to land first. Okay, now I don't quite like that. So I am going to move this down a little bit and over a little bit. I'm going to go back into home. I'm going to go back into set start and set this now as my new starting point. We never want to forget to do that. Now I'm going to go back into home. I'm going to go back to my contour range check, and I am going to check it. Okay, now that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to go into home. I'm going to go to my design range check, enter. Okay, and you'll notice that it has a lot of extra space on the right, but it was pretty close to the left. So I'm going to move this down a little bit, but mostly over to my left. Don't forget, now we need to go back into home, go back into set start, enter, enter to set a new starting point. Now we're going to go into home. And we're going to go into design range check. Okay, and I can move that over just a little bit more. I like it to be fairly centered. Go in, reset the start point one more time, then go back in, take a look at our design range check. Now that looks beautiful. It's centered right in our hoop. Now we simply start the design. Okay, now that that has completed, take that off, and there is our completed design. You can see it repeated. And now we're going to get out of embroidery mode, and we're going to go back into our machine management. We're going to go back in here, and we're simply going to go down, and I'm going to set my repeat times to 0, clear it, 0, 1, and repeat times 1. We're also going to go down, X interval, 0, Y interval, 0, and enter. And that's how we turn the repeat function off.